The grizzly bear is a powerful symbol of the American West. It once ranged across Canada all the way down to Mexico. As European immigrants migrated from the eastern states and began colonizing the western frontier, encounters with these formidable bears often occurred. Sometimes these encounters were deadly, other times peaceful, but there is one well-documented grizzly story that is rarely shared. In July of 1847, the first of a wave of Mormon pioneers entered the Salt Lake Valley in northern Utah. Mormon leader Brigham Young was ill with a fever and had been riding in Wilford Woodruff's wagon trying to recover. At the mouth of Immigration Canyon, Wilford Woodruff stopped his wagon. Brigham sat up, surveyed the valley, and uttered his famous phrase, "This is the right place. Drive on." This small band of pioneers entered the Salt Lake Valley and immediately began digging irrigation canals, planting crops, and building makeshift log homes. But just 1 month after this arrival, a small company of men left the fledgling settlement in the hands of a few stalwart men and women, and then began a return trip to Winter Quarters, Nebraska. Once in Nebraska, they would organize the thousands of pioneers that had stayed behind into wagon companies and send them to Utah the following spring. Now, the thing you need to understand is these were a confident group of men. It was not their first time to the rodeo.
Well, I think that they didn't know what they were doing, and they were out in the wilderness, and they were from back east where it was more polished.
They had been down the trail before, but this time they weren't encumbered by oxen, by multiple wagons, by the strict regiment of the wagon train that Brigham Young had set up.
I think they were excited because they were in charge, and it was new, and it was a frontier, and they thought they were doing what God wanted them to do.
While having firearms was a necessary tool in 19th century life, it's important to remember that these men were from back east. They were millers, farmers, shop owners. Really, they did not have a lot of practical experience. In a lot of the journal entries, we can see surprising detail about who shot their first antelope, who shot what, who missed what, and they had a lot of good times and good-natured ribbing with that.
The guns of the 1840s were very different than the guns of today. These were muzzle-loading black powder rifles, and the way they were loaded was very different. The shooter first had to measure the proper amount of gunpowder. Too little and your gunshot is ineffective. Too much and you blow up your gun. The next step is you had to pour this explosive gunpowder directly in the muzzle of your gun. Then a fabric patch and a lead ball were pushed down in the barrel. A ramrod was used to make sure that these were pushed all the way down, tightly packed against the powder. Finally, the hammer was pulled back and an explosive percussion cap was put on. Then the hunter was ready to shoot. This whole process took about a minute for an experienced shooter to reload. Even if it was done properly, these weapons were plagued by misfires.
Heading east, the company made their way from Utah into present-day Wyoming, following the Sweetwater River. In addition to hunting food, the men made time for exploring. They recorded being on lookout for mineral deposits of coal, iron, copper, and gold, resources that would be of value for the pioneers as they built up their community. On September 18th, the company had made it as far as Deer Creek, Wyoming, near present-day Independent Rock. Wilford Woodruff records this experience.
We traveled 18 miles and camped on Deer Creek, which abounds with game. The area teems with antelope, buffalo, and deer, all of which are good to eat.
In the afternoon, most of the men were in camp, with the exception of a few who had gone off to view a coal deposit that had been noticed on the initial trek to Utah. Wilford decided to explore.
I walked up the creek with my gun 2 miles but saw no buffalo. While walking, I heard a loud sound and was startled to see a grizzly bear quarreling with her cubs. She did not see me, and I did not think it prudent to approach her alone.
Wilford Woodruff has no idea how powerful these bears are, but thankfully has a good sense to stay away and not approach these bears.
Having avoided the gaze of the old mother grizzly, I crossed the creek and climbed up onto a high bluff. There, I watched as she came out into an open place where I had a good view of her. I found she was working her way down the creek towards the camp. her cubs following closely behind.
Wilford Woodruff walked 2 miles back to camp and told the rest of the company that he had spotted a grizzly bear that had 2 cubs. It seems like from the journal entries that his intention of reporting this was to keep the men away from the area and avoid the animals. But what actually happened is exactly what you could expect to have happen if you have a bunch of men who are with nothing to do and they have guns, and when they hear about a dangerous situation, instead of avoiding it, they run right into it.
These pioneer men, they had never seen a grizzly bear in the flesh. A few of them may have seen black bears back east, which were a lot smaller. They had no idea what to expect. They had no idea about the ferocity and the power of this species of bear. So Wilford Woodruff really shows a great deal of common sense, knowing to, rather than engaging the bear, just back off and walk away.
The company of men gathered all their firearms and went up to the creek in search of the bears. Wilford Woodruff records that they got within 22 yards of a mother bear before they saw her. As soon as she saw the men, she instantly charged towards them. These men have never seen a bear, grizzly bear, in fact.
Well, imagine yourself, you're chased by a grizzly bear and that you've never seen a grizzly bear before.
And here you have an angry mother grizzly charging at a full gallop towards them.
And so what do? How do you react? What's going on in your head? I can't even imagine.
As soon as the bear charges, all the men grab their guns and they open fire. The humorous thing in all of this is even with all these men firing guns at the same time, not one person hits a bear.
You have 20 to 25 men all shooting at 3 bears. They only can get off 1 shot, and then they don't have time to reload, and then all they can do is run away.
All the men took their single shot and then ran off, except for Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball. These two both had multi-shot pistols. They kept firing and kept missing. The mother bear quickly covered the distance and chased the 2 men right up a cliff.
Imagine you're Brigham Young, and here you are, the Lion of the Lord, and you're being chased up a cliff by a bear.
The journal entries of the different men differ on how long they say Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball were stuck on this cliff, but it does indicate it was a substantial amount of time. This mother grizzly is roaring, pawing, trying to get at them. Eventually she gives up and she wanders off. Now, once the mother bear and the cubs had left, the sensible thing to do would have been to count your blessings, as they say. Be grateful that you didn't get killed by a bear, go back to camp and go to bed. But that's not what the men did. As you would expect, a group of unsupervised men with a lot of free time and firearms, as soon as the mother bear leaves, they go back to the camp, get more ammunition, get some dogs, and go chasing after the mother bear and her cubs. Fortunately for the men, they never did find the mother and her cubs, and so fortunately they didn't have another attack.
I'm filming right now. Don't shoot, but go ahead and... Bear. Face again. Do that again. Okay, that was... For wrestling! That worked. That's gonna be a cool shot. He likes that rock, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Ah, Matt!
Kind of became.
Brother Brigham, what is it? The bear. What do we do? The bear. Don't worry, brother, the Lord has provided me with the means to smite this incorrigible foe. That's it, you're walking back to Missouri.
I already walked all the way here. GG, you go.
You kicked him out of the herd!
Oh, confess!
The Lord has spoken!
The Lord is displeased. Why? Brethren,
I couldn't be dead!
I've come today to preach to you about having many wives. Many wives is better than one wife, because instead of one, you have many.
Come back here, you dirty! Young dude! Ah!
That's a...
Back up, back up, back up. Let's do this.
Brother Brigham! All the medicinal whiskey is gone!
It's nothing to worry about, brother. I'm sure savages simply stole into our camp in the middle of the night and took off with it. We don't need it. We'll be okay.
Alrighty, gentlemen, you both know why you are here. You both know the rules. 10 paces, and then on my signal, fire. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Nobody died!
We just asked, we said, are you shooting? And then you're gonna film.
Jason, we need the wig back. Jason, you need to take the wig off now. Jason, I think you're getting far too attached to the wig. Jason, are you listening? Jason, we need the wig. Okay. Okay, you can keep the wig, Jason.
Who's this pretty lady?
What? What are you doing? You need to take the wig off.
But I like my shooting wig. It makes me feel beautiful.
You are beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay. Sir, could you tell us your opinion of the pioneers wearing wool in the summer?
This is the stupidest idea ever. Worst episode ever.